What's up, you lazy, entitled, basement-dwelling millennials, bootstrapping boomers, apathetic Xers, and goddamn Gen Z kids today? Today we've got a great guest that we randomly asked to do this when we were hanging out 2 days ago, I think it was, in DC. But I have been a huge fan and longtime mutual with Miss Brenna Perez. If you don't follow her on all of the socials, you should, but she is a multi-talented person, filmmaker, producer, total influencer, documentarian.
Go fuck yourself.
I mean, she's already influenced us, so, I mean, can't really argue with that.
Super fun person in general, who does a lot of advocacy for, integrity in journalism as well. So, Brenna, why don't you tell us about yourself, your past, how you got to what you're doing now, kind of what you are doing now, and all sorts?
Sure. I was not expecting that. I just want to go on the record to anyone who is seeing this. I have no idea how this is going to go or what's supposed to happen here.
It's going to go great.
I guess we're talking about me. I thought I was just going to be slotted into you guys talking and hanging out, and we would just be focusing on.
Well, but people need to know who you are first,
Yeah, of course. We need your pedigree. We need your pedigree explained.
The internet is a big place, so.
No,
yes.
Yeah. Okay. How did I end up doing this? What I'm doing? Well, I guess I'm a content creator.
What are you doing?
I'm a content creator. You gave such a great, fabulous intro. I create content about things that interest me. Mostly politics, analysis, some jokes. Sometimes it's more comedic, sometimes it's more analytical and educational. But I mostly just talk about stuff that interests me. And I shit on MAGA. Not literally, but,
I mean, you could. I do hear that there's a whole OnlyFans market for that.
Yeah. I'm sure some of them would be super into it, but...
No, they seem to be. We were talking to Twig. It's Twig this weekend, and she does that. Just humiliation
Not shitting
content.
on people.
Yeah, but I mean, it's humiliation content that they pay her for, humiliation kink stuff. Because let's be real, Mega pretends that they're alphas, but they are all pretty much beta cucks at this point, which is why they're in a weird cult where they call it geriatric old man daddy and buy pieces of his suit and golden sneakers.
Yeah.
Well, and pay $10,000 to go to an alpha camp because that's what all alphas do is
I missed that.
Pay tens thousands of dollars to go get yelled at like it's boot camp and you're going to become an alpha when you obviously weren't beforehand, so I don't know. It's like conversion therapy for MAGA to try to become more MAGA.
I'm writing that down. I haven't heard of this alpha. Is this a real thing?
This is a very real thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just alpha camps. Yeah. Just
alpha camps, yeah. They're actually crazy expensive. I couldn't believe... It's basically like a boot camp, and, they do mostly just physical exercise and stuff. But I guess, there's always these not quite Andrew Tate level, freaks that run it. But they're supposed to be, motivational speaker for Red Pill.
Yeah.
They figured out, I was going to say they sort of figured out how to turn, make more money off of the self-help book design by just charging people to show up at a thing. That makes sense.
Yeah, why do all the effort to write a book when you can just do a alpha camp instead and make a couple videos and some slides and
I mean, and you can charge so much more for that.
So much. It amazes me. Well, and because that these people don't read either, so it's probably hard to sell them books.
That's true. That is true.
They need more hands-on experience. I can't believe that there's that many people that are that insecure in themselves that they will actually buy this shit. It's just wild to me.
Yeah. Well, fascism, it's funny. You remind me of this post I've been sitting on for a while that I've been meaning to make, just about the insecurity that drives things like fascism. And specifically, I wanted to make a video. I'm sure you guys saw the news lately about how, can we use the H word on this?
You can use any fucking word you want.
Okay, Hitler apparently had a micro peen. And so everyone was like, well, that tracks. And it's like a bit of a joke, but it actually tracks. Like that is... And like you can look at all these examples of like Elon Musk supposedly has some sort of, transplant or dysfunctional thing gone wrong, whatever, enhancement surgery gone wrong. Epstein had something weirdly shaped. Trump, I believe there's like a rumor, stuff like that.
I've heard the mushroom head stuff about Trump.
Yes, that's the one. Yeah. Stuff like that, but a while back, I found this research that I've been meaning to make a video about. Don't scoop me, content creators. I'm looking at you. There was some research that came out like a few weeks back about how, and this is about shame and insecurity. This is not about body shaming. How people who are, the more overweight men are on average, the more likely they are to feel that their dick is too small. So there's a higher rate of insecurity on like this like manliness size, feeling among overweight and obese individuals. And that just so happens to correlate with, there's higher levels of obesity and whatnot, like on the right. And I do believe that there's like a level of, I do think that somewhat feeds into it a little bit. There is some degree of higher insecurity about this like manhood thing on that side.
I can see that.
It makes sense because like the bigger you are, the smaller your dick is going to look proportionally. So I guess that makes sense.
I think I've always heard, it's probably like somewhat of a myth, but also like I think like I've heard something like the more weight you lose, like there's literally like less like fat and like skin between like where you're normally actually there, and so like you actually do gain inches by losing weight or something like that.
Yeah.
If you're really out there.
But it's
I don't
also
know
about
why
like
I
how
know
much
this.
you can see
Don't ask me
looking
how.
down. No, I think I've heard that before.
Yeah.
I have no reason to have heard it, but I think also just like looking down, you see more or less.
Yeah, I mean,
anyway.
if you can actually see it, I'm sure that helps.
Yeah, but they like correlated this to like Protestants apparently have a higher rate of insecurity about their size, and it's not because on average they are smaller. It does happen to correlate with the rates of obesity among Protestants versus like other shame-based.
So are you saying
like,
that Protestants are fat then? Just like
I'm
inherently
saying that
fatter?
there are
Like-
higher rates of obesity among Protestants apparently than like Catholics. For example.
Somebody in the
Well, I mean,
comments
there's-
says, I agree with Taylor. Hubs lost 30 pounds, and yes, ...
Well,
you
good
go.
for him, and good for you too. But I
Mazel.
mean, it also correlates with just like rising rates of obesity across America and the Western world, and they happen to be, Western world happens to be more white than any other, part of the world, and so you get a lot more angry white dudes, and when you get a bunch of angry white dudes with small penises together, I don't know, like fascism happens, I guess.
I mean, literally.
What's happening now? I don't know.
It is all driven by insecurity. Like we can make jokes, and I mean, and we should, right? We should. I believe in making fun of their insecurities, like hit them where it hurts, because
Right.
fuck
I mean,
them.
they don't actually have like a micropenile syndrome. Like they're not actually, dealing with like a bodily issue in that sense. It's perception.
But and even if they were, you could have a micropenis and not be a fascist. Like there's a way of, you know what I mean? But it comes, and you can also not be insecure about it, or you can also like, it's not like a black or white thing where it's like, oh, the insecurity belies a real like issue, nor do real issues necessarily have to result in insecurity that drives you to really fucked up shit. But these are people who have these like super repressed feelings, need to feel good about themselves, and need to feel like they have some sort of value. And the way that they are viewing their value is always in comparison to other people. And if they have nothing to offer the world, or feel that they have nothing to offer the world, at least deep down, they gotta find something that they feel confident has value. So they tell themselves that, like, oh, my skin color has value, and so therefore I am higher value than like other groups of people, or oh, my gender has value, I am higher value than these other people, because they're battling this like awareness or consciousness, or at least impression, that they would never admit to, that they don't have worth.
I think
or
that's
value.
That's why they use terms like high value male and shit like that, right?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
It just made me think of, like, the one thing that millennial parents did actually incredible was convince an entire generation of kids that they are unique and special, and gave millennial people like self-confidence to believe that they are that way, more so than any other like generation previously. And I think you can see that at least for the moment, the most left-leaning generation that exists today in the United States. So
Yeah.
which is
That's
weird
true.
to say.
yeah.
I still can't believe.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's reflected in that, like, similar or off that sort of thread, celebrating weirdness. You know what I mean? We're the generation that was like raised to kind of celebrate weirdness, and like there was a lot of the anti-bullying campaigns that kind of happened with us, and I mean, and we grew up on media that depicted classic like bullying stuff, but I think there was this part of that media that was very much like bullying is bad, you know, these are the bad guys. And I do think that on some level that raises a generation of people who are like, oh yeah, like bullying is bad, the nerds are cool, counterculture is cool, being alt is cool, you know.
I mean, Jimmy Neutron and Recess right there, like two great shows.
Yeah.
Anti-bullying and pro, like being a smart person is good. Being dumb is not as good. If you can, read a book, that's good.
Yeah.
Invent things.
Yeah.
I wonder too how much it has to do, that insecurity has to do with not being taught social skills of any sort, like, because it seems, I think that this has been a really big problem with Gen Z, and why so many men are going in this like alt-right pipeline at a younger age when they shouldn't be, when traditionally, these would be the most progressive demographics in our society. But Gen Z seems to struggle with social skills a lot for a few different reasons. Obviously, COVID didn't help them with that. Growing up in a chronically online, screen-driven society, being the first generation to have that, from the time they were born, basically. But I'm wondering how much of that has to do with now these young men don't have any idea how to talk or interact with women, and therefore they don't build meaningful relationships with women. That makes them feel inferior and less than, and then instead of, self-reflecting and being like, okay, I'm just kind of a shitty dude, maybe I should be less of a shitty dude, they just start blaming women for that and buying into this alt-right pipeline that exists to exploit those insecurities and push them into this misogynistic bullshit where they're going to, alpha dude boot camps and thinking that Andrew Tate is the peak of men for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think
he has cool sunglasses.
Does he? I don't even remember what it's.
I don't know. I mean, I've got the coolest sunglasses out there, so.
It's true. Your sunglasses are cooler.
But I think you did say, oh, I have the sunglasses you gave me. Like, what were you talking about, like the pipelines and stuff, and like these alpha camps, is like something I think we keep forgetting is like assholes usually an asshole needs to learn that they're an asshole. Like a lot of times they need to be told you're an asshole and this is not okay. And like we've evolved to be social animals, or not to be. We have always been. We have evolved as social animals. And like so much of our behavior, we are learning from these external cues. We are constantly checking to see how the other members of our herd are reacting to our behavior. And we're picking up on that. And like that is what we learn from. And I think so, like, you know, on one level, there's this like isolation, which decreases that a lot, right? Like, you're going on these computers and there's a lot less like checking of behavior. You know, if you're going into these corners where like this is the corner of the internet where this behavior goes, there's, I think you're kind of accidentally like rewiring the brain to not understand where certain guardrails are, like what's going to get you ostracized from society or rejected by the people like directly around you. And instead they find their way down into this pipeline, and that's the like feedback they're getting that's like encouraging them of like, oh yeah, no, you will get positive feedback when you like reinforce these sort of these ideas and these conclusions you're drawing about women being like the reason, you know, things are bad or feel, you know, things feel bad. And part of that like feedback mechanism is like we learn not to do something because our brain like it hurts, you know what I mean? Like embarrassment hurts, shame hurts, all sorts of rejection really hurts. So they're spending this time being weird around women and getting rejected. Their brains are going, ooh, that's a bad thing. I feel bad. There's something about this situation that I don't like. Turning around, finding somewhere else that's validating that exact behavior. So when in the past that bad feeling would have maybe led someone to make a different choice, they're going towards what makes them feel good. And they're just learning, oh, women make me feel bad. Women are the problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, so I wonder, because we always say that these people have always existed, these like racists and douchebags and all that kind of stuff. And we spend a lot of time blaming the current political culture, you know, the leader of the free world who bragged about grabbing women by the pussy and is an adjudicated rapist and a raging prolific pedophile. And that has validated that type of unacceptable behavior, and so we spend a lot of time blaming that, saying that these people always existed, they just existed under the rocks. But I wonder how much of it is it has never existed to the level it does now and has been expanded upon because there's these echo chambers that these people can go in and find their little bubble groups of incel losers who circle jerk each other in some fucking Nick Fuentes chat group, and that grows, and somebody, you know, that pipeline actually amplifies the number of people we have, where had they just had to deal with the real world consequences of being a douchebag, they would eventually act like less of a douchebag.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's absolutely the case because, I mean, these behaviors clearly have carried over from pre-internet times, and like they've carried over since we've been, you know, a nomadic species, right? Like the reason why there's still assholes that exist is because like they were useful for survival, right? Like more aggressive people versus like, you know, just not as aggressive. And yeah, you're right. I mean, obviously the ability to find echo chambers so easily has to be a huge part of it. You know, not even including the whole, you know, societal, you know, based issues that are affecting every single person. And so, you know, it's easier to fall to try to look for those places than ever, because the world does kind of blow for everybody, and so blows extra more for those people.
Yeah. Well, what's the solution then to like get them out of those spaces or get rid of those spaces?
I mean,
I think it has to be painful enough.
Oh.
And I don't you know, I don't know that there's one solution. But it's sort of like, and I think we talked about this weekend, like, or no, maybe it was with Defiance. But this idea of like, you know, I said early on, our best case scenario as a country is that Trump crashes the economy before he crashes our democracy, because the economy, like people feeling directly in their everyday lives the pinch of something not working is a lot more likely to get people to be like, hold on, like look around themselves and be like, I'm not on board with this. Now, does that mean that they're not on board with the white supremacy all of a sudden? No, obviously not. But like that same concept of like, it has to hurt. And that's why we are predisposed as humans to reject, like socially reject people who are harmful, right? Like this is what's so fucked up. We are, for our safety, for the safety of the herd, when we see these antisocial behaviors, we are predisposed to reject that. But the reason they are encouraging it is because someone else is heavily, heavily benefiting from it. Usually monetarily, right? There's at least one person that's making a lot of money off of encouraging these things. So they're able to like maintain this system, this like positive feedback loop. And so, there's this idea that's, I think like the problem is like, okay, well, but we keep rejecting these people and therefore they keep going out to seek these spaces, therefore reinforcing and building and strengthening these spaces. So how do we counter what is the usual solution, which is, it has to hurt for them to be these assholes. But because it hurts for them to be these assholes, they become bigger assholes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's my long-winded way of saying I don't know.
No, I think that's a very valid point.
That's a way of saying we're fucked because they're not getting fucked.
Yeah.
That's a good way of saying we're fucked. It has to hurt
more to be an asshole than it feels good. You know what I mean? It just has to hurt more to be an asshole. And I don't know how we can do that if we do not have a system set up to counter the reward system that they're receiving, that they've built and are feeding into,
I also think we're fucked in the sense that like the thing that's propping up the economy right now is the tech bubble and the AI bubble. And I'm not sure that pops in the next like 2 years, like that's mostly based off of like high profile, like tech companies making even just incremental strides at this point. It's not even like they're doing anything groundbreaking necessarily with these LLMs and shit. So like, I think it's largely, the economy is going to be largely reliant upon how the stock market does with the tech bubbles. That's being like the top 5 companies are like 50% of the S&P 500 or something or shit like that. Like the economy is being propped up by like 5 conglomerates at this point.
Mm-hmm. And
yeah, but those. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say that that those. No. That's what you're here for. The more you talk, the less I have to. I don't think that those are going to provide enough economic stability for the average American to, like, even if the bubble doesn't pop, so to speak, it's not spreading enough of the wealth down to make it. People are starting to hurt because they can't afford. I mean, people have not been able to afford shit for a long time, and we're getting to that
that's
point
what I mean.
where
it's like the wealth, the gap, and what people can afford is like it's been steadily getting worse for what, basically since 1970,
years,
right? Like, I don't know. Like, are we gonna reach that point of the slow decline where people can no longer take it? Or is it going to be something drastic? And I agree. Like, obviously, the stock market is not representative of our economy, obviously, but it is representative of like what people perceive as the economy in general, as far as like I want to say wealthy people, but like middle class, upper middle class, people that are generally like more engaged in politics, possibly. I don't know.
I mean, the problem is that's like the whole economy conversation is like people are seeing what they want to see in the tea leaves. And not literally, like there are economic markers, but yeah, this idea of like, when I used to debate MAGA leading up to the election, and they would be like, well, how's the economy doing? How's the economy, like compared to Trump? This was under Biden, of course. And I was like, well, by what metric? Like by what metric? Because if we want to look at the stock market, it's doing great. If you want to look at inflation, like it's actually doing pretty good because they brought inflation down. If you want to talk about affordability, yeah, it's fucking bad. Absolutely. And it's been getting worse. Like that's not because of Biden. That is something that was getting worse under Trump. It was getting worse under Obama. It's been getting worse for a long time, but it was like always this question of like, you want to talk about the economy, you're saying the economy is better under one president or the other. By what metric? because all of a sudden now they want to look at the stock market and they're like, the economy is great under Trump. Look at the stock market. It's like, okay, but under Biden, like, you wanted to look at something else entirely. You wanted to look at the price of your groceries. And so it's like whatever they want, whatever narrative they want, they're going to find the evidence for it in a sense, you know.
Right. They're going to find the goalpost. They're going to find the goalpost they prefer to score, right?
Yeah.
I do think that this was the disconnect, especially for corporate Democrats and Kamala and the Biden campaigns, was that they kept talking about how good the economy's doing based on these overall big metrics. And it's like, you're missing it because people aren't feeling that. The stock market doesn't affect you and I. Like, whatever that does on a day-to-day basis makes almost no difference in our direct lives. But how much the price of gas and eggs does, you know? And so people are saying, I still can't afford my fucking rent. I still can't afford groceries. My pay has been stagnant for years. Everything else has gotten more expensive. And now the president and the vice president are telling me that everything's great in the economy and stop bitching about it. And that was, like, I think, really big miss of the mark in not having that empathy, because they're still out of touch with the lived experience of average Americans, you know, especially these people who have been career politicians who haven't had to worry about the price of groceries in their entire life. Definitely not in the last 50 years.
I mean, that's not entirely true for all, you know. Some of them have at some point in their lives had to worry about the price of groceries, just to be fair.
Yeah,
but yes,
no,
I understand
but,
what you're
like,
saying.
yeah. And so I think that is really where the economic measures disconnected, and people are dumb, right? Like, the majority of Americans are fucking painfully stupid, and they can't look back at the overall trends and understand, you know, like, Republicans have always been exponentially worse for the economy. Like, there's no metric. It doesn't even matter if it's the metrics that directly affect our lives. There's zero metrics where Republicans have outperformed Democrats since fucking Teddy Roosevelt, right? Who was a progressive. So they just say, like, things are bad now. I'm voting for the opposite of what was going on before, and that will make my life better. And then, I don't know. But the identity politics has really jumbled things up too and made it a much weirder landscape to navigate and message through.
Yeah, and I think like, someone in chat is saying, like, oh, well, you know, gas used to be less than $1 in the 90s, something like that, or $1 in the 90s. And to your point of, like, oh, well, they were like, they kept being like, well, the economy's great. And people were like, but it doesn't feel like it's great. Yeah, and I think the key to that is this magic word that Mamdani won on, which is, like, affordability. Because, again, also, among this conversation that I would have with MAGA, they'd be like, well, like, what about inflation? And I'd be like, inflation is down, dude. Inflation is at like 2.2% or whatever it got down to under Biden. I was like, that is healthy inflation. And they'd be like, that's bullshit. My groceries cost X, you know, amount more than they did, you know, yesterday. And it's like, yeah, because inflation was high. And what you don't seem to understand is that, like, what you want is for the prices to go down. That's deflation. Deflation is terrible. Like, that's, as much as I want my prices to go down as well, that's an economy in free fall. That is not a healthy indicator, and you're not going to be happy then either. But, like, the issue is, like, we have to accept that inflation is always going to happen. And in fact, we need it. Capitalism needs inflation at a certain, like, hopefully small-ish degree to keep going, because your money, you need to be encouraged to spend money. Companies need to be encouraged to spend money today rather than holding on to it today and hoarding it today. So the way that happens in the long term is it should be worth just the teeniest bit less tomorrow so that they're willing to hire you today. But that idea of, like, okay, but shit is so expensive now compared to a year ago. Inflation is down, but, like, everything's still so expensive. It's like, yeah, what we need to talk about is affordability. Inflation went up. Now it's back down. That is a rate. That is a rate of the prices climbing. That is not a measure of the prices themselves. What you need is to be able to afford those prices. So how does that happen? Your wages increase. Your taxes perhaps decrease, and we start taxing the wealthier a lot more so that they're picking up the slack on, running the systems that keep this country running and afloat. Perhaps you have more social safety nets, so you don't have to keep paying for health insurance, or you don't have to keep worrying about, this. What your issue is affordability. It's that you cannot afford stuff. The prices will not go down, so let's get you more money that you can spend on those things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Democrats, I think, are too afraid of using that term because it's socialism, to talk about the solutions to actual affordability.
Well, clearly they're afraid of socialism, or at least some of them are.
Yeah.
Well, and to your point too, it's like it definitely becomes a we want our cake and eat it too situation. Like, we want low inflation, but we also want low interest rates, and those two things don't go together, And people, so like, when the interest rates go up, people bitch about how they can't afford anything because interest rates are too high, but low interest rates increase inflation. And again, you get tariffs and stuff like that. It's something where they want isolationism and to make America great again, somehow, and we're gonna do that by putting tariffs on, so we make everything more expensive, so we make it here at home. But then again, that's going to drive inflation, and it's going to kill business, which means that prices or wages aren't going to go up. It's just going to literally take money out of our pocket and give it to the government.
And there's a psychological aspect to that whole thing too, of the tariffs. We don't acknowledge this. The reason Americans keep buying all this foreign stuff is because it's cheaper, and we're all trying to scrape whatever we can together to afford as much as we want to afford. When you have enough money not to worry about it, you start buying some of the fancier shit. I'm sure we've all had that experience, right? Where when we're feeling a little bit more comfortable economically, we're more willing to buy ourselves a little treat, or spring for the fancy version of whatever. We are all buying the cheapest version available of everything because we cannot afford the fancy version of it. And those are and this is not meant to actually be talking about the quality of American products versus products from other countries, but people can buy American right now, and they're not. Why? Because they need the cheap version. Why do they need the cheap version? Because they can't afford not to go with the cheaper version. Period.
No, it's true. It's true, and I mean, and that just comes back to we need higher wages, and higher wages would fix a good portion of these problems, along with more social safety nets, and then it wouldn't matter as much. I just don't understand that the people who are struggling the most with this fight those very simple solutions that much of the rest of the world has figured out, at least to some extent. They understand that as long as you give people enough to survive, they're less pissed off about the government and the world and the way things work, and less likely to do a fascism, which is probably why part of the reason the people in charge continue to put us in this position, because they want a fascism, and this is kind of how they get it, right?
I mean, I feel like this is the part of the show where I talk about how both sides are the same again, and they're both just upholding the same economic model, and they use social issues as wedge to, keep the labor class fighting against itself and voting for each, club that they view themselves as part of, socially speaking. And, both sides uphold this capitalist, system that keeps everybody, 90% of us in a perpetual state of, artificial scarcity.
I will say, let's jump in. In a lot of ways, I agree that the both sides are not different enough. Let's put it that way. Yeah. But I don't want to, there's a reason I don't think we would be where we are now under Kamala, for example.
We absolutely would not be. No.
For sure. For sure.
Like, so when we say both sides are the same, I think traditionally both sides have a lot of the same priorities. That's for sure. I think one side has like maybe more lines in the sand that it doesn't like to cross, you know? And while it has a lot of the same priorities, it also is fighting, you know, you're talking about like the social wedge issues. Absolutely. Yes. Those quite possibly are a tool of, you know, our overlords, right? But at the same time, like I think it's fair to acknowledge, like, I do believe that there are some Democrat politicians that like actually care about LGBTQ rights. You know what I mean? I'm sure some of them don't, but I think a lot of them do. A lot of them probably do believe in women's right to choose. A lot of, you know, and does that mean that they're not prioritizing like their capitalist, you know, ambitions? No, but yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
like,
and that's right. Absolutely, we campaigned. We told everybody that we could that it would absolutely be better for everyday Americans to vote for Kamala. Like, there's no doubt. But we also said that Kamala's not going to create the change, and didn't campaign on the issues that actually affect affordability and make those social issues less dire, because she's still taking, you know, $1 trillion in PAC money and isn't actually, you know, didn't actually stand up for a lot of the things that people like Mamdani, Bernie, and, you know, AOC actually campaign on. And you can tell that the larger Democratic Party doesn't want us to focus on those issues because they won't acknowledge Mamdani as, you know, the Democratic nominee for mayor. So it's like, that's I talk about it. I just try to bring it up like one time per episode or like every other episode.
As you should.
Because I agree with you, but like we need to take a step back every once in a while.
Yeah, and I mean, God, far be it for me to defend the DNC. Just for chat, who has no idea who I am, proud leftist here. I talk shit about the DNC constantly. Not a fan of so much of what they do. But I'm always like, my line is like, I want to be mad at them for not, I'm not going to be mad at Democrats for not using power they don't have. Right? That's one of the rules. Right. And also, like, I do want to acknowledge what they do and what they don't do. Like, fuck the DNC for so many things. And to your point, Taylor, I agree. They're not willing to go far enough. At the same time, Democrats were the ones who passed the Inflation Reduction Act that Republicans now brag about, right? In 2022, it was 100% of Democrats voting, not a single Republican. Kamala was the tie-breaking vote. Biden signed it into law. And it did a lot of things. One of the things being prescription prices, which is that post I've been working on for 2 weeks that I can't compress into under 10 minutes. Which is the one I'm going to do. I'm going to do the short version tonight. I'm just going to do it tonight. It's happening. You heard it here first, guys. You guys are my accountability buddies now.
We believe in you.
All right.
Yeah. And so like, and that was like a monumental thing, like at least on the Medicare prices, that was and that was absolutely going towards improving affordability, not just for Medicare in that sense. Like the only place where I believe in like trickle down bullshit is if you bring prices down, like other prices are going to have to compete, right? So if you start bringing prices down in certain sectors, like under like the prescription drug prices under Medicare, there does create a little bit of competition for non-Medicare recipients, whatever. Whole other fucking discussion. And there was, you know, I don't know the IRA from front to back, but there's definitely like a lot of pieces to that legislation that was actually pretty historic and important and was addressing affordability issues to an extent. But yes, I agree with you. They're not willing to go as far as a Mamdani would like to, an AOC or a Bernie, etc.
Right. I mean, because like, yeah, controlling prescription drug costs is one thing, and that's like a band-aid on multiple gunshot and stab wounds when we really need a single payer option, a universal healthcare option, and have needed it for decades. You know, and I think that that's where people are starting to get frustrated. Is it's like we talk about you can't just make this radical change all in one step. And it's like, okay, but we've been trying to make this incremental change for years, and we're somehow still going backwards. And maybe we've gotten to the point where you need that radical change. And I think back to the point you were making earlier is it needs to get to that pain point where people, you know, are ready to make a decision for change. And this goes beyond little mega incels. I think that goes for all of us because all of us get really comfortable in the status quo. Like if things are just good enough, we're not willing to go out of our way and do the hard work and take the hard pain points to make the big changes, right?
It's pretty easy to stay home and watch Stranger Things season 5 and just be happy and comfy, you know, and take you know, take those moments to just not have to think about the world. And if you make enough Stranger Things and crap, then people don't think about anything but this social commentary, right? And that's what America's best at.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean,
So I'm always the downer.
No, I feel you.
Like the so the reality is, and I mean, like in the past, we can see this. The Great Depression ultimately led to, you know, basically all and the only like social advancement we've had really in the last 100 years. Came under that because the system was so broken and people were at such a pain point that they were ready to, you know, take these radical ideas like social security and the government becoming a big player in things like utilities and a lot of private industry and breaking up these big companies and things like that. And then things got really good through the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, and they're like, status quo seems okay, and so nothing got improved. You know, our infrastructure stayed stagnant. Our wages started to stagnate a little bit. Our trade policy started stagnating and stuff like that, and it really allowed the bigger powers to slowly chip away at those protections we'd put in at that time. And I think we're kind of getting back to that point which sucks. I mean, we're getting to the point where we're going to have an economic crash. We're getting to a point where there's a lot of social and civil unrest again, which is obviously at this point causing a lot of mostly civil and peaceful acting out, I suppose. Which we were just participating in here this week. Brenna was in DC with us. And you cover quite a bit of protests. How long have you been doing that?
God, I mean, I've documented activists in different capacities for different reasons for many years. Like years ago, before the pandemic, I was commissioned to like direct by a corporation, ironically, to make like some shorts about LGBTQ activists, you know, related to Pride and whatnot. And so that was like, you know, interviewing and profiling and whatnot. And you know, apart from that, like, I don't know, when I was younger, I was very politically active, and then I kind of took a break when I came to America, basically, and I was in college and whatnot. But through the filmmaking, I slowly like started getting like little projects like that. And then
for everyone who doesn't know, you were born in Spain.
I was,
correct?
Yes.
And grew up in Spain.
Yes. Yeah.
But your mother's an American citizen, was an American citizen. And so you were doing politically active stuff in Spain as well?
Yeah, but often related to the United States, because my mother, she was a journalist up until like, you know, she quit when I was like 1, right? But so she was always like very politically watching America. So she would stay up till like 5 a.m. to watch the elections in the United States. When I was 2, the fun story is like I recognized two people on TV by name. One was Michelle from Full House because she was like a blonde little girl, just like me. I was like a blonde little girl, and I saw myself in her. And the other one was President Clinton, because that was the guy that my mother would always point out to me. And so, I grew up in that sense. Like I staged a protest, let's say, where I wore like a sign saying like Bush wants weapons, Bush wants oil, not weapons of mass destruction. For example, when I was like in middle school, we did a couple of like a year after 9/11, my school was like, okay, and the school was called the American School of Madrid, so there was a lot of Americans there. A third of the kids were American, a third were Spanish, and a third were like every other country in the world. But so they were like, okay, we're all gonna wear red, white, and blue tomorrow to like commemorate this thing. And like, I was kind of outraged. I was like, I'm gonna wear black because, because they were like, we're gonna wear red, white, and blue to commemorate the American lives lost. And I was like, I'm gonna wear black to commemorate the lives lost, period. And just, I was a little asshole in some ways, I was just a little punk that. Oh, also, I guess when I was in second grade, my mother explained to me what a petition was. This is actually my first ever activism. I was in second grade. My mother explained what a petition was, and she just said where you get a bunch of people to sign something, asking for a change. And in my head, that just meant like a piece of paper and everyone signed wherever. Like I didn't even think of like you list and number the names. And I did 2 petitions. One of them worked. And I would like sit on top of the slide and not let anyone go down the slide until they agreed to sign this like piece of paper that just had all of these signatures scrawled on it. So anyway, that's the background, I guess.
What was your successful second grade petition?
It was there was 2, and now as an adult I know why the other one failed. The one that failed was we had this like playground, on the school grounds, and they installed this like really big like rope pyramid. I don't know if you guys have seen those here. Yeah. So really tall, huge liability that like no one thought of, I guess, when they first installed it. It was so cool. We all like loved it. So exciting. And some kid fell off and like hurt themselves. And like a parent was like, you gotta fucking get rid of it. Like, we're gonna sue you. I don't know if they were sued. So that was the failed petition. That was the second one. The first one was
You're trying to save the rope pyramid?
Yeah, we were trying to save the rope pyramid. Yeah. But the first one,
I would have signed it.
You would have. I'm sure you would have. Like everyone. Everyone. It's disappointing. But now I understand why it failed. Why the power of the people did not work in that case. The other one which was the first one, was they instated these like weird lunchroom rules. So we had like lunch and then we had recess. And in the cafeteria, like they instated some weird lunchroom rules where you had to sit at a specific seat, and like if the volume got too loud, they would put like a frowny face up or something, and you would like lose recess minutes or whatever. It was just like this insane thing where someone just decided that kids were too loud at lunchtime, and so they wanted to punish us by and that's like the dumbest. If you want kids to get their energy out and be quiet, taking away their time outside is not the solution. So I don't know if they also changed it.
Also sounds like a cop out. Like the teachers just like didn't want to have to do their job and like sort of have this conversation with elementary school kids to be like, this is a normal talking inside voice. This is your outside voice, and inside, please use your inside voice.
Yeah, it was. And also, I think like part of it was like they would change the little symbol and like not say anything. Like if some kids are being too loud, just walk over and be like, chill out, To have this little weird thing on the wall and expect kids to spend their entire lunch like watching the thing to make sure that they're quiet enough. It was just dumb.
Yeah.
So the petition was to remove the sign and the seating assignments.
To just go back to like normal lunch, like just let us fucking eat lunch in peace, and
let us be obnoxiously loud and not take our recess time away.
Let us be kids. Let us just have our lunch and like not worry about this whole thing. I forget what they call the system, but yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So you've been involved in activism since early on, and you've been covering it for a long time.
The really important stuff, obviously.
Lunchroom
really
rules and recess rope pyramids.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm curious to know, especially since, again, we were all at Remove the Regime together, which was, I thought it was a really cool experience. It was really inspiring to see that many people out there from all over the country. I had a guy came because he saw me advertise it, and he flew from Hawaii to be there. Like, I mean, it was wild. Like, people came from everywhere. Florida, Alabama, California. I met a few people from there. I mean, just all over. And
I just want to say, shout out, you're the person who got me out there also.
Yeah. See, I earned my Soros check on this protest. Like,
you did, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Should get a bonus this time.
Just turns out to be one big Soros pyramid scheme where if you recruit a couple other activists.
It's like essential oils for activism.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, if it worked that way, I think we might get a lot more done. Just gonna say.
I know, well, because then every middle-aged white mom would be like just selling activism.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. Actually, that is not the dumbest idea I've ever heard.
Did we just come up with like how we're gonna save democracy? It's gonna MLM,
the revolution.
Oh, that's brilliant. We can get somebody on this.
There's a way. There's like genuine. There has to be a way of making this work.
We just gotta figure out the little trick of the words to make it seem, like it's a product and not a revolution.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, we're gonna sidebar.
Workshop.
We're gonna make this happen.
It was not a Catholic school. Humility.
Sorry. But I'm curious now. How you feel? The activism has changed as things have gotten progressively worse. I mean, obviously, it feels like there's more protests, there's bigger protests more often, and you were definitely more involved with more of this type of activism long before I ever was. So I'm curious to know, like, if you feel like we're getting towards that breaking point, if these kinds of big protests, like the No Kings and now Remove the Regime, and the smaller forms of activism, whether it's, using megaphones to yell at the Heritage Foundation or standing on bridges with signs and all that stuff, like, what your perspective is on all of that, and is this building to something that's going to be effective at saving us from whatever the fuck is happening?
I mean, I can tell you what strategies have been effective, right? And you can pull out all the stops and use all the effective strategies and have it still not work, right? Like, you can make zero mistakes as a movement and be the most effective movement in the history of histories and still fail. So just to there are no guarantees in life. In the same way that you can have a very good army and fight a almost going to say very good war. you know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
And put up a very good fight and still come out losing. Setting that aside, is this building up to something effective? I think a lot of people are waiting for the protest or like the moment that it is effective, or like we're coming up to something that's going to be effective. That is not how this typically works. This is part of the effectiveness. This moment right now, every moment of it from the beginning is part of, the strategy, the process of what will possibly end up succeeding. A lot of people seem to like to say that mass mobilization. So by mass mobilization, that's like No Kings. I would say that the DC thing, that Remove the Regime, was also mass mobilization. Like a lot of people will be like, oh, you went to No Kings, that's cute, like did it work? It's like, well, that's not how it's ever worked,
Right.
But mass mobilization has always played a really, really important role in successful nonviolent revolution and resistance movements. Like every successful one has had some form of mass mobilization, I believe, as far as I've seen.
Right.
And it's
the Illuminati would make you think that.
That's true. Yeah, they do have their hands in everything these days. But it's not. It's never
inviting me on
the
TikTok
only
Messenger.
tool.
They're like, you've been selected to be a part of the Illuminati, and I'm like, oh really? Like, never
They're
thought
like,
that I'd get.
just
I'd get
bring 2 of your
get
friends, recruit 2 more friends, and then you'll get the ball rolling on your Illuminati membership. Yeah, it's all.
There we
it's
go.
all pyramid
It's already
schemes.
workshopping.
Yeah, there. But yeah, mass mobilization is never the only tool, right? But it's never a tool that gets abandoned, right? Or should not be a tool that gets abandoned in full. Do I think this is building up? I think this is part of what is going to be the effective strategy, or the most effective strategy. How have I seen this change? We have broken records with like numbers, right? Especially with the No Kings stuff. It is a lot more visible because it's been so big and like widespread, and because we're at this like really unprecedented time in history. It is a lot more widespread. It is a lot more like I want to say it's like it's become a lot more like normal, so to speak, right? Like you're not there used to be this idea, and I think there still is to an extent, that in order that the people who engage in protests are activists, right? And a lot of people don't think of themselves as activists. And last summer before the election, like I was documenting this like sustained campaign of nonviolent direct action. And like it was mostly climate stuff. And I had told them like, listen, I want to document how you guys organize this stuff, because I want people to realize that there's not this like, oh, I have to be an activist in order to engage in this sort of activity, or like this barrier to entry, so to speak, is entirely mental, including in nonviolent direct action where you're getting arrested, right? Like that, I feel like there's this very much this view of like, oh, that's other people's thing, or oh, I could never. I think it's so cool, but I could never. And I wanted to be like, we should be making these processes more accessible to people so that people can learn from this and do it themselves. And I think, at least on the mass mobilization front, that is becoming a lot more normal, where more and more people who have never been to protests in their entire lives are like, hell yeah, I'm going, we're going to protest. Like anytime there's a local protest, we're going out and we're doing it. And I'm at PerezBrenna, by the way, not at Brenna Perez on most platforms.
Oh, damn it! Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you. I put PerezBrenna in our. It'll be on our podcast episode. It'll say PerezBrenna. Yeah.
So as an extent of that, also, this is another video I've been wanting to do forever, and I've talked about this on my live streams a lot. A lot of people are out here being like minimizing this mass mobilization, like, oh, like No Kings was cute. Oh, you went and you were like in a libbed up parade. That's cute. No one got arrested. Therefore, it wasn't a real protest. That's not fucking true. Anyone who says that to you has no idea about the history of protest, no idea about strategic nonviolent resistance, no idea about strategic resistance, period. Because even in more direct and disruptive and like arrestable types of protest, the mass mobilizations gives that, like, it validates those tactics as being part of something more palatable and more acceptable to a broader range of people. Like that super helps to support the people who are out here getting arrested for blocking cars, buildings, etc., for example. But beyond that, with the image being really important, they, if you want to get involved in more direct actions, and by direct actions, nonviolent direct action, I mean like blockades, the things that are often going to get you arrested. The best place to get involved in those things is by going to things like mass mobilizations. You're going to get flyers for organizers and organizations that are doing stuff a little bit, more local or more like smaller. You're going to find out about different groups that are doing trainings. If you go to a training for like a rapid response group, right? Those are the people that when ICE is spotted somewhere, a message is sent out and people show up to document and to support and whatnot. First you got to go to a training, and that's where you're going to meet people who are going to be like, cool, now that you have done this safety training, let me tell you about how to get plugged into this. So it's not just like an image thing that is very important for protests. It's also quite literally a logistical thing. It is one piece of the larger puzzle. And I think more people being at these things doesn't just normalize the idea, doesn't just lend credence to the resistance movement publicly. It also gets people more and more connected to other activities that never in a million years they might have imagined themselves doing. A lot of people never imagined themselves chasing down cops, to document them ripping people out of their homes or cars. No, I never imagined that I would be doing that, but yeah, anyway. That was another.
No, I think that's an incredible answer, like to the, the performative aspects of mass mobilization movements are make an absolute difference for people who are on the outside and want to feel like they want to do more and create a pipeline of sorts to find other like-minded people and to get more further engaged. So is one protest, is 5 No Kings protests, is that what's going to be the thing that, gets Donald Trump impeached, that, changes the election results? Like, it's a part of it, right? It's part of the ecosystem.
Right. And also, like, just to address when you say, like, performative, and I know you didn't necessarily mean it in a negative way, a lot of people use that description in a negative way to describe protest. Protest by definition is performance. Like
right.
Protest
exactly.
Protest, like the word, you are protesting, not protesting as in like in this sense, like in protest, you are sending a message. I do not like this. I protest this thing. Like whatever the thing doth protest too much. The lady doth protest too much, right? That word means like, I don't like this. And when we're talking about a group of people protesting something, it is that they are communicating that they don't like something. It is, and if no one is there to receive the message, like, it's, you're not sending a message. You're just, that is performative, right? Like if we're going to use it in a negative way, performative protest is showing up with your buddies, for your buddies, and just like out, cool guying your buddies and not letting anyone else know what you're showing up for, what you're doing, what you're protesting, etc. You need to get the message out for a protest to actually be any sort of effective protest. So,
or like handing out money to homeless people and being like, look at me, I'm doing this thing, and like it's a good thing to do, sure, but like you're videotaping and sharing it with people to provide a performance to people to like show like you're doing a good thing.
Yes. And the thing is, like, I don't even see that as an outright terrible thing necessarily, right?
No,
there's a way to do
terrible.
It.
It's not of course it's not bad, like, to help people in that sense, but like for sure, if you wanted to just help people and do good things, then like you don't have to record it. You don't have to make it a performance.
Sure. But also, behavior is contagious.
Sure.
Like
right.
that is,
and there's a good reason to do it in some cases. Absolutely.
Yeah. We learn from each other. Again, back to that social being thing. We don't just receive feedback from one another. We are learning from each other. And when people do things around us, we are more likely to do those things for better or for worse. And filming positive acts and putting them on the internet, yes, it can feel a little bit artificial for sure. But the more people who see that, the more people there are who are likely to do something similar. And that is a net positive. You cannot convince me that is not better than someone being like, no, I'm pure. and that's why I don't film myself doing these things. Okay,
right.
But if the goal is for more and more people to do something good, maybe the person who's filming themselves doing something good and putting it on the internet is actually being less performative about it. Maybe they're the one who's like out here trying to set an example and encourage people to do the same, rather than the person who's like, no, well, I help people, but I don't show anyone because for me, it's all about just helping the person. It, okay, sure. Sure. I don't know.
I guess it just, for me, it bugs me so much that like a Mr. Beast doing like these like things and like making it this like, it's just I don't know. For me, I understand that like obviously
that's just a shtick with no ultimate goal too, which is I think where the difference comes in is like if your performance that you're putting on is leading towards an ultimate goal, which is like getting people to mass mobilize, getting people involved in a movement, getting people to speak up about their discontent with the current state of things, then that has value, But where it's Mr. Beast is running around doing this random shit for a shtick for views, and there's no call to support policy that's going to end homelessness or address mental health issues or like any of the things that would like help that, then I feel that's where it breaks down.
I think Mr. Beast isn't necessarily like, we could talk about Mr. Beast specifically, and then we could talk about the act of filming yourself doing good deeds and putting that on the internet. I think those are two different things, just because there's some crossover. I don't watch Mr. Beast, but I do see a lot of people who are not nearly as famous as Mr. Beast doing good deeds on the internet. And that has given me ideas. I know it's given other people ideas. It's inspired people to do stuff. Lime Accordion, great example. She's another content creator that we were with this weekend. She, not so much a good deed, but this is a perfect sort of example of this. She calls our representatives on the phone and will often harass, the people at the office or leave not so nice voicemails on the machine. But she has inspired thousands of people to make their first call. And just because she's putting the fact that she these calls on the internet, you know what I mean? She's not doing anything crazy with it. It's not fancy. It's just her phone. She's sitting there. She's calling them up and putting that online. And people are responding to that. They're learning from it. And as a result, more and more people are being mobilized just because they're like, oh, that's something I can do. And not everyone can do everything, but, yeah.
I mean, I will say I do follow a couple of creators that do the mobile car repair stuff that's for free, and some guy that goes around and fixes his neighbor's house. It's mostly for me to have a dose of good internet, and not always doom scrolling. So I do appreciate people doing those things and filming it for that sense for me, but.
And also, some of it is supported by the views, right?
Absolutely.
Some of the good deeds, yeah.
No,
sorry,
but you're supposed to live in abject poverty if you are doing anything good for other people. I'm told this all the time. I should not be profiting or surviving off of the content I make. That's.
I was thinking about this exact thing today, and I have to use the restroom really quick, if you don't mind me stepping aside for 5 minutes, 2 minutes. But put a pin in that because I was thinking about this exact thing today. Very frustrating.
Intermission.
Yeah.
I don't know, Taylor. So, how do you feel about actually traveling for a protest for once instead of just doing the local stuff, festival one? Yeah.
I mean, traveling in general is fun to go there, and then on the way back you realize that it actually kind of sucks. You're just I would just rather be home the whole time. But it was also very cool to be there in the moment. So I had a great time at the Remove the Regime protest stuff, and obviously I think the best part about it was the next step of going to the protest was meeting all the other people that were going to the protest and were a part of that that group, and so sort of expanding my circle of like-minded people. So that was my favorite part of the whole thing for sure.
No, I agree. It was like just huge. I don't want to say networking because that sounds very corporate and professional, but like,
I mean, I use that word like literally, like you're networking around like-minded people, and it doesn't have to. I thought the same thing, but I was like, no, for sure, you're not networking for like business purposes, but you're networking for like-minded people to be your friends, I guess, you know.
mm-hmm.
You talking about this weekend?
Yeah.
I used the same word when talking to Philippe about it. Yeah, it feels weird to be like networking. I will say this was also in comparison to a lot of protests that I've gone to. I've never like hung out with creators like this. Definitely never at like protest type stuff. And so I think in many ways, I think part of it was obviously like because it was partially creator organized in the first place. That's like a big part of it. And Philippe and I were talking about like that as we were coming home yesterday. That idea of like that role. I was like, it was so weird in a good way. Like that. So there was such a big group of these like almost like micro celebrities in this space, and I was like, I was like, I don't know if there's a moment in history that I can liken it to, but then I was like, no, but I can. This is actually very normal. There are well-known organizers at all points in history, or well-known speakers, or well-known, and not everyone makes the history books, but there were people that were more like involved in activism and stuff during different social movements that like anyway, you know what I'm saying? I haven't even figured out the right words to put to it, but yeah.
No, I feel like if more protests or movements that are doing things like this, because when we went to like No Kings or wasn't just the Women's March where we went that really cold day, Jordan.
The People's March.
The People's March, yeah. Like there was a little bit of like a pre-event, but not really. And there was no like, hey, like we're meeting up or we're having, if you want to be more involved, you want to volunteer. Like there wasn't as much of the community building for, the people who wanted to do that, just for, to promote that event or to like be a part of the group that, creates the event. And I feel like that's a shame. Like I feel like that the way, at least partially, the way that things were, the regime was set up should be like of course, like the standard where you try to find local people that, especially like if you're doing like 50-51 events around Minnesota or wherever, whatever your state is, and like try to create this community and then like have it, promote the protests and whatever. Like I feel like that's, and they may not already be kind of doing it, but I don't know. We didn't, Jordan, like, I don't think, have you been invited to all these events in Minnesota and just haven't gone to one or told me about any of them?
No, I mean, I invite you to everyone that I've gone to, and, I mean, obviously I've gotten to speak at a couple of them, and that was really cool, and I think that having speakers that are somewhat known is part of the draw, and the opportunity to maybe meet those people. I definitely, like, it was wild to me, the number of people who, like, decided to come and engage because their favorite creator had, in a sense, invited them to come. Like, I got stopped so many times. Like, more times than I've ever been stopped at a single event in my life for a handshake and a picture. And people
whenever I was like, "Where's Jordan?" He's in the back. He's in the back.
But that was like really cool, and it was like it was interesting to me because I think that the fact that creators were part of the draw to this protest, people came out for that because like going like in my mind at a protest in St. Paul or Minneapolis where I get like definitely people come out and they recognize me and they say hi and everything like that. I would expect that to be like the peak number of people that would be interacting with me, because that's where I'm
Your
local
backyard.
to. I have a fairly large base of people who know and expect me to be at these things, I would assume. So to have that, so far from home and so many people from around the country, I think was really inspiring. And I do think that it's something that could be utilized more, to get people engaged.
Yeah.
And then I do think like ending up at Union Station, where the flare and Remember Your Oath tents were set up so people could figure out how to get more engaged, and had that kind of like meet and greet time to just talk to people, is a really effective like next step in just not just marching and not just listening to some powerful speeches, but then getting more of that social aspect in there.
Yeah. I will, I agree with what you're saying, OJW, and it was unique in that. But to what Taylor said when you said like, oh, you believed, I think you were saying that this should be the model for, or were you talking about like another one should be the model for like people?
No, I was saying like this. I really enjoyed the community aspect of I met just a crazy amount of people like outside Union Station, where afterwards there was like a mingling, and like there was more than just like, hey, do the speech, great, we listened, let's do a march and then go home. And there's no real like, there's no social hour, right? Mm-hmm. And like that's where I got to network and meet all these people that like from all these different states that I have really enjoyed connecting with, and sharing our vision and just comparing and contrasting.
Mm-hmm. Are you talking mostly other creators, or just mostly just random people? Like
mostly mostly creators, but there were a couple like activists that were just there to like be part of the protests and did activism in their own states. So I think like a local protest would probably have activists that have like issues that are tangential to like a No Kings, that like if I met them locally for something unrelated, like we could, if if they're there and if their issues like aligns with our progressivism, like we would absolutely have them on the podcast and promote and just like it would just build on itself in that way.
Yeah. I do think, I mean, this was definitely a different dynamic, as we've said. I don't know that I would say like, oh, this is the model for it. I'm just like, oh, this is a different type of, or this is a different version of this, right? Like in New York, like I've never done a protest that felt, at least personally, like that creator heavy, or at least not where I was seemingly part of, at least on the outskirts of that creator presence. So who knows? Maybe there has been others. But like New York City, like you'll have like Mark Ruffalo will go to a lot of protests, and you'll see him.
I've seen those. Right? I love watching him. Pedro Pascal. I've seen him in a bunch of and I think that's awesome too.
Yeah, and it's great, and it's awesome for amplifying the message and whatnot. But I think. I think it like serves, there's a different dynamic to it, and I think it serves slightly different it's not it all serves the same purpose ultimately, but there's a different dynamic.
Achieves serving that purpose in a slightly different way.
Yeah, and it's a slightly different approach to it, and it's in the same way that we need like this wide different sort of things. Like a lot of times I was surprised at how creator forward it was, because like I try a lot to not be the story when I document protests, and I'm starting to literally, just like the last No Kings thing was the first time where I was like, you know what, to Philippe. So to anyone who doesn't know, Philippe is my feller. He also works in film and TV. Oh, also my background originally is as a filmmaker, and so he usually goes with me to document these things. And the last No Kings, I was like, I'm starting to realize that I might need you to film me at these protests a little bit as well. So it's not just us getting footage and live streaming the crowds and whatnot. It's like I need to start showing that I am at these things. And I think there's a purpose for that has a place that can help certain things, but I'm definitely not just filming myself at these, it's this weird thing of like, sometimes you really, I always want the organizers to be front and center, and obviously, and the message to be front and center. And then we as creators can help with, elevating or spreading part of that platform. And sometimes, we are setting the platform to an extent. We're part of the creation of that specific message. But yeah, this role of creators is definitely like unique, and I think it should be different depending on the purpose and the approach to it, I guess,
100%. I agree. I think more to Taylor's point too, I think that just having that social hour, even if there wasn't the, quasi-celebrity aspect of it, or however you want to put that with content creators, just having that time, because that is, at these protests where I've gotten plugged into a lot of other things, it tends to be that domino effect of as soon as you start showing up to one thing, you'll get drawn in something else. But obviously, if you have a centralized space and some social interaction time sort of built in, those organizers in those areas have more time to interact with more people and expand that network more. And I think that and again, then you just have more time to be with like-minded people, and you're not chanting, you're not listening to something. The whole point is just interacting with those people and building that community. And I think that's really important. Obviously, the community is the most important part of all of it. So.
Well, and I think of like how many candidates for office I met too, and it's like it was really cool to see them in person and get to meet them and hear their message in person. And like I definitely want to have some of them on the podcast too and highlight their message, hopefully help their campaign for progressive economic issue, all those things. So like I think if we had just showed up on Saturday morning, listened to the bands and the speeches, and then gone home, I definitely would have felt less enjoyable about the whole thing.
Well, I think that part of the Union Station hangout afterwards is like a natural. It kind of happened naturally. I mean, I don't think. Yeah. I don't remember
they were there, right? They've been like there for so long, and even if you're not there for, I think like a month or whatever, months at a time, I think if you're like, this is where our camp is set up in this park that's nearby,
set up,
and then like even that I think would make a big difference.
Right, but that's kind of what I was gonna say. Like, I think that is a natural occurrence of they happen to have a base camp that's set up that is like it's not a building, right? Like a lot of places will have like HQs, buildings, right? Like in New York City, though, like when protests end, if they happen to end near any sort of plaza or park, people end up going to that plaza, square, park, whatever, and like so many different things happen. A lot of times, like a sort of makeshift rally will kind of develop, and I'm sure some of them actually are like somewhat planned, right, by smaller organizers, where people will stand up and start speaking to the group. But a lot of times, and my favorite thing is like there's often like some sort of like dance party, because my favorite thing about protests, like mass mobilizations specifically, is like the music that gets brought and played and whatnot. And at the end of it, there's often, at least in New York City, people with giant speakers or one of the like brass bands that's there will be playing whatever, and people will just be there like party dancing. And there's a lot of, there's also people end up like putting their signs around, often like against a fence. It'll just happen naturally, like lining the fence all around a park. And so you can just walk around the park and see all of the left behind signs with the messages, which sounds like littering, but it is beautiful. Like, so it happens, I think, more naturally if you have this like place, this third space, so to speak, after because people love hanging out and
maybe that's all it would take is just planning protests so they end up at a space like that.
Yeah, I mean, but you have to be careful about it being too planned without a permit, I will say.
For sure.
Well, I mean, if your route just kind of ends you up in that space and you're like, okay, protest is over, and then then it's
exactly,
it's just people hanging out.
I
don't know if there's a park near huge, like capitals are usually
we don't
like
need to plan this for our local.
no,
our
I just say
on the
like
podcast either.
most like capitals are like in a city, and some of them have more parks than others, and so some people, it sounds like New York happens organically. I don't think it's happened organically quite as much in the few times I've gone to Minnesota here, but
yeah.
It is also worth noting it's a tiny percentage of people, just like
Sure.
it was
Oh, yeah.
at Union Station. That was a tiny percentage of the people who showed up to the rally and the march that ended up hanging out there.
Right. Yeah, no, for sure.
You know, and it was largely creators, and I think part of that was that creators just felt a little bit more confident in hanging out there, I guess, and chatting to people.
True, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that we solved all those world's problems, I wanted to go back to what you wanted to put a pin in about creators getting compensated for their work.
Yeah. How did you say? What was the first thing you said?
Oh, that I we're supposed to suffer in poverty when we do this for not a living, I guess.
So today, as I was like running errands and stuff, I was like, I want to make a post about this, and I was like writing it mentally. This idea that leftism isn't God, I couldn't think of the word, but a poverty pledge. What do monks say? What's it called when they say it?
I think it's a poverty pledge. That sounds rightish.
Like a vow of silence, basically, but for money.
Vow of like poverty.
Yeah.
Like that's not, and a lot of people use that. It is ultimately no one thinks that. Oh, but they do.
Yeah, somebody in the comments says no one thinks that, and I'm gonna tell you because like I didn't get paid to go to remove the regime. Like I did a lot of work for free for that. And then I was doing fundraising work for it as well. Like, I mean, I was saying I was doing fundraising work. I was promoting some of the fundraising that they were doing. And a bunch of people came, well, it seems like you're trying to make money off of this. Like, that's fucked up. This seems really scummy and scammy. I'm like, do you think PA systems and permits and porta potties and all the things that are, like, required to put on something like this just magically appear because we show up to do them? Like, all this shit costs money. Like, and then, like, again, if I was making money on it, like, I am providing a service, and that's where, like, it gets frustrating. Like, it's like, they wouldn't expect the people who put out the porta potties or bring the tents or the PA systems just to do that for free out of the goodness of their heart because it's a good cause. But because we are a part of the cause, like, using a platform, because I do this to make money. I do, and, if I'm doing this for a company, I'm charging them to use my platform to promote their thing. Like, why is it wrong suddenly when it's a good cause that I'm doing it for? And that's where it gets weird. And so anyway, continue.
No, I mean, and I was having similar thoughts. I mean, because we got convinced. So OJW convinced me to go super last minute, and I drove down with my boyfriend drove because I don't drive, and we were going to stay for one night. And we got like this block rate at the hotel thanks to OJW. He was like, we've got an extra room that you can get like a little discount on it. Great. And, and I said to like, if someone else needs the discount more, like I'm happy to pay full price. Right. Like I know I am privileged in that, like I make New York wages, in some ways. And so it might be harder for someone else to afford it. And then we got convinced, I think ultimately it was both you and Good Trouble that convinced us to stay an extra night. And so, paid for that, didn't have the same rate, the like discount on that night. And so we were like, fuck it, let's just do it anyway. That between the gas, right? You got like 2 nights in a hotel, the gas, the driving, obviously the time you're spending getting there.
You gotta eat when you're there.
Food when you're there. The getting around while you're there, we paid for Lime scooters a couple times. Yeah, all this stuff. And so like mentally, I was tallying it up. I was like, God damn it, this was an expensive weekend. And not because we were like rolling like high rollers or anything. You know what I mean? Like
It's DC. It's an expensive town, and yeah, you got expenses that you wouldn't have at home because you're traveling.
Exactly. And like a normal, whatever, you're spending a couple $100 a night for a hotel, like at a certain, that's money that you wouldn't normally spend. And in my head, I was like, this is why. It's like, God damn it! Like this is why, like I need to be more like, oh, I need to get paid for stuff so that I can fund this, and that's sort of like what led. And I do get paid, obviously, like as a creator, from advertising revenue and stuff. But that kind of led me to that thought of like, as much as this commenter said, like, no one thinks that way. No one thinks that leftism is a vow of poverty. I was once accused of being a fake leftist because I went on a international vacation. I went overseas to Croatia for a weekend for my best friend that I've known since we were 3 years old for her bachelorette weekend. And that, like, in comments on a video, like a few weeks later, someone was like, well, she's a fake leftist because she was just on vacation overseas. And I was like, that's not what leftism is. And I've seen other people, like other creators leftist creators get accused of being a fake leftist because if they were a real leftist, they would donate every cent that they made towards XYZ and whatnot. And
I mean, yeah, like one of my favorite creators, Hassan Piker, is like always called a champagne socialist because he was able to buy a home in LA and makes money on Twitch from streaming and professing progressive values and always just talking about like trying to make the world a better place and how the world sucks because of all the things we talk about. So like,
yeah. And I think there's like various layers to this. I think ultimately it starts as right-wing propaganda, right? And this is me like brainstorming my post. So if you guys watch my content, this is like, you'll recognize a lot of this, I'm sure, in a post eventually.
The behind the scenes.
Yeah. There's like a lot of, I think it starts as right-wing propaganda, right? Like, oh, like socialists, they want this idea of like, well, if you're a socialist, you're against private property, private ownership, whatever, or like everyone's poor under socialism. They're like fear mongering, right? You can't be rich in socialism. That's not true, guys. You can be rich in a socialist system. It depends on the type of socialism it is, but like market socialism, yeah. The ultimate goal of any form of socialism is not that no one is rich, it's that being poor shouldn't be a fucking death sentence. Right? That should not be the entire defining factor.
It's not that nobody's rich, it's that nobody lives in abject poverty and goes bankrupt for just the bare necessities of life. Like everybody has enough to live a dignified life, and then you let capitalism do its thing and people can get rich or whatever. It's just, it means that you got a few less billionaires in the process because you need that wealth.
The goal of democratizing the workplace is always, I feel like that gets overlooked a lot when defining socialism. Is like democratizing like what is actually occurring in your world and no longer having the capitalists or, billionaires make those decisions for everybody else.
Right. Yeah, it's about distribution of power, which usually ends up in a distribution, results in and also comes from, it's like a vicious cycle, distribution of resources. And just this idea, like, one thing onto what you're saying, OJW, like I like to say, like, I want to make it okay to be poor again. Being poor should not mean that your life is fucking terrible. It should be okay to be poor. You should be able to be poor and still like not be afraid that like one accident is going to put you on the street, right? That's it. You should be able to trust that your children are getting quality education, even if you don't make that much money, even if you're poor. It should be okay. It should be okay to be poor. Anyway, that's where it starts, right? They're trying to fearmonger. Oh, under socialism, everyone is poor. You can't be rich. You can't have lots of money, blah, 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 blah. But I think it seeps into even leftist spaces where we see even like leftists, and I'm sure most of them are bots, and I'm sure most of it is like by design, but we see these weird purity tests of like, well, you're a fake leftist because you went on vacation. It's like, I would hope that even if I make a ton of money one day, and I've made more money at other points in my life, years, before the pandemic, I made more money than I do now and have for many years. I was still a socialist back then. You know what I mean? I did not abandon my morals just because I happened to be making more money. Walter Masterson is a great example. Like recently on Threads, someone, talking about New York City and taxation of like, oh, this person is, whatever. So-and-so is like trying to like tax people making, I don't know if it was Mamdani or whatever, but like more people making more than X amount each year. And Walter Masterson was like, yeah, I'm voting to raise my taxes. And like he kind of revealed in that, I don't know if he's done it before, that like he makes a shit ton of money, which doesn't surprise me. He makes a shit ton of money, and he's like, yeah, I'm voting to raise my own taxes because it's what's right. And I think that is what I think that also there's like another side to how insidious this is, which is where people, socialists, leftists, are afraid to then make money because they're like, does that make me the bad guy? It's like, no, firstly. Simply making money does not make you the best.
It depends. It depends. It depends on how you're making that money, for sure.
Sure, yes. But that's the thing. Yeah. You can make very little money doing horrible fucking things. That is worse than making a lot of money doing something very, very good. Yeah.
At least in my 1,000,000%.
Yeah.
Well, and the lot of money has limits too, because at a certain point you're making more money than you can ethically. This is where there's no such thing as an ethical billionaire, and
exactly.
and even that one that you like specifically, there's still an unethical billionaire. I don't care if it's J.B. Pritzker. I don't care if it's Taylor Swift. You have more than $1 billion in wealth. You are maintaining that unethically for a number of reasons, and you probably had to.
Makes it unethical is not ultimately technically like the number, right? What makes it unethical isn't the fact that they're making money or that they're making a lot of money. What makes it unethical is that they're making so much money while other people are going so deeply without. Or that the only way one can make that much money in this day and age, give it a few hundred years and everyone, the middle class will be billionaires, right? In the same way that it used to be unfathomable for any normal person to have $1 million. Now, most middle class, even lower middle class, will make $1 million at some point in their life. But it's the fact, it is that inequality, it is by comparison, what are you doing, so another example is like back when I made more money, because I was like running a production company, I was a producer, I was hiring a lot of people, and I was very, very clear on like, no, like my priority is always, always, always going to be wages. I'm always going to be very transparent. Everyone on set is going to know exactly how much everyone is making, because like that is not common on film, and there's a lot of lying. There's like producers are, and my goal was always like, if I have to cut costs, it's not going to be wages, and it's not going to be people. I'm not going to force someone to do 3 jobs. Like within whatever we could make happen, I'm going to cut equipment, you want 5 cameras, but you can't afford like a living wage to crew. Cool. Cut one of your fucking cameras. That's what you can't afford. So, just stuff like that. I was not a fake leftist in that, just because I was making more money than I am now. And I think, again, it's like it makes leftists afraid to make money. It makes people afraid to become leftist or to engage in ideas like socialism, because you're like, well, what if I am successful one day? Do I have to now hate? Do I have to abandon this ideology? No. And also, if I believe this, does that mean I'm not allowed to make any money? Like, it is propaganda that has, I believe, 100% originated on the right, or at least capitalism, and then and everything right of that, and has seeped into, unfortunately, some leftist corners in different iterations. So yeah,
I mean, and that's really, I think what it comes down to is like, we shouldn't be punishing people for being successful in these spaces. We should be fighting for everybody to be successful enough or have what they need to not be struggling and not be. And that's where, and I've got no ambitions to be super wealthy, but I definitely want to be in a position where obviously I can do this full time because I feel like I'm making some sort of impact in the world that's valuable. And I would like to receive some of the benefits of that value, because if I don't, I can't keep doing it, and that's really what it comes down to, is people need to realize that if you want people to do the work, they need to be getting paid to do the work, or they'll have to go do something else that will pay them to survive, which won't be the work. And that's where it's like, why are we punishing people for, you know what? If people pour a ton of time and hours into planning protests and activism, they should be getting compensated for that. There's nothing wrong with that.
What is more fucking socialist than being like, you should be paid for your work, right? Like,
right, exactly.
It's just like that concept. I agree. And to the other side of that, of like, yes, because there are a lot of conversations happening right now, especially among leftist creators, of like how does one get paid ethically as a leftist creator? Because the right has machine upon machine of, just funding behind really, really bad people. And us on the left, like, we want to be really, really careful about our sources of money. But having a source of money, or having sources of money in and of itself, shouldn't be the problem. It's like, this, right. And so that, I assume that that's kind of where a lot of this is coming from, because I know that was a big, conversation that I had a few times with people this weekend, of like,
right. It also puts a, I don't want to say unreasonable, but I do want to say unreasonable expectation on creators on where they end up getting some of those revenue sources from, because a lot of times you're offered something from an organization to promote candidates or products or policies or whatever the hell it is, and there's a certain amount of due diligence we should all be doing before you say yes to agreeing to work with an organization or a company. But most of us are one person doing this and having the ability to do, any type of deep dive into that, and to say that, you're selling out or you're supporting whatever evil corporation or dark money group or whatever the fuck it is. Because, we saw this all with, like, the chorus stuff, right? Like, when they freaked out about that. And it's like, to throw all these creators under the bus because they were offered an opportunity, then you just don't necessarily agree or like how that opportunity was funded, I guess. I don't know. It's, like, difficult. And a lot of creators, this is the first and only time. And I wasn't in chorus. I'm not even speaking on behalf of myself, like, I'm just speaking on behalf of, like, the situation where, like, what would I have done given that opportunity? I probably would take it, you know? Like,
especially,
there's a lot of situations.
Yeah, based on, sorry to interrupt. I don't want to be monopolizing this, but based on the snippets of the contract I saw, a lot of it was, I will say, misrepresented. As someone, again, who has a background in producing and media contracts and stuff, I have seen more media contracts that I could even begin to count. All standard contract language that is just like about, it's all required by law, and it's none of it that I have seen so far. And I'm happy to change my tune if I see a different part of the contract that says otherwise. None of it was prohibiting them from speaking about something or anything, or like dictating what they say about something, dictating who they're allowed to endorse. It didn't say that they're not allowed to endorse someone. It just said that they could not use the money that they were being given by this company to endorse someone, because that goes against, like, campaign funding ruls and laws.
That's a legal
it's
problem.
Like basic shit. So if the contract I received had all those little things in there, I probably would have said yes, because none of those things say you can't say what we don't want you to say. No. If you want to give me money for me to keep saying what I want to say, go for it. you know, go for it. People Venmo us. I'm sure you have the same experience. People will occasionally Venmo you money, or on YouTube send those, like, you know, I forget what it's called, like super thanks or whatever, super comments. And it's like almost like a tip. I'm like, yeah, if you want to send me money, give me money to do what I am doing. Great.
Thank you. Yeah. And I've gotten shit for the Venmo or buy me a coffee or like that stuff in the bio too. I'm like, I'm not out here telling people to give me money, but if somebody feels that the service I'm providing is of value to them, like, yeah, it takes every single dime of revenue you can scrape together in this to make a living. And and that's the thing is, I think all of us who've done this for any length of time have been criticized for every form of revenue we get. Even like video views, if you make something that does well, then you're like, oh, you're just doing it for the clicks, and it's like, you can't win with it, you know? And so like, it's difficult. But
and I think, and again, it's so insidious. Like, a lot of it, I think, has to be fueled by people who just don't want the left talking 100%. About stuff. Because
which is most of our own problems are psyop plants from right-wing propaganda that they have managed to infiltrate, because we're such a, you know, for lack of a better cliche term, big tent party, where it's really easy to divide subgroups based on minor ideology differences and just implant that in, especially in social media, and then just let us tear ourselves apart. We are great at that.
Well, and our weakness as a big tent group, right? Like, anything left of center, you know, let's say
anything left of like center right, like Mitt Romney is basically a Democrat at this point. So like,
like, our big weakness is that, like, we are motivated because we want to do the right thing. It's like it's the biggest, the easiest thing to exploit. So you can just be like, oh well, look at that person. That's not the right thing. If you can get at least one person to adopt the idea that X is not the right thing. Because because if you care about doing the right thing, you're already, like, you know, riddled with these questions constantly. Is this the right thing? Am I making the right choice? Is this, like, harmful? Is this, you know, whatever? And if that is what basically dictates at least some of your choices, let alone like most in your ideology, it is so easy to just drop like one little seed of doubt or of an idea that no, this specific thing is actually the harmful choice. And that'll destabilize like a good chunk if it grabs hold, you know? Yeah.
Well, as once again, our 1 hour episode is up to 1 hour and 46 minutes. So I will not monopolize any more of your time, but I do want to know, I want to give you a chance for all of the shameless self-promotion that you want to do here. Is there any projects you're working on? Where can everybody find you? What do you want to brag about? Anything you want to plug? You can go
people can find me everywhere but X.
Yeah, fuck that place.
Yeah,
horrible.
That place. At PerezBrenna on every platform. PerezBrenna. As for next projects, you know, that's a good question. I don't know. I've got like a list of videos that I want to make. One that I've been working on for like 2 weeks. But mostly like the activist. What's the next big march? Let's figure that out. Let's plug that, because yeah.
Do we have another big one planned yet?
Is there one set?
I don't think there's a specific one set yet.
I will say I do feel like some of the stuff either happens very quickly or the advertising is difficult to appreciate. So I don't know. I don't know of any. Yeah. I know it is weird because when we were in DC, when I got back, I was on Facebook randomly. I don't really go on there very often, but I did see that in my hometown there was a small little protest. I don't even know if it's related to a national movement or even state-led movement, and it's just like that. I could have gone to that this weekend instead of going to DC, or on another weekend, and hadn't heard about it at all. So I don't know. Yeah. There should be central.
There's all the bridge brigades and local indivisibles and stuff, and they're doing stuff, local action all the time, and those are really easy to get plugged into. So definitely check them out.
And I will say also, just onto like the earlier thing we were talking about, and if you are not sure how to get involved, or even if you've never even like wondered it. Like, I would also encourage you guys, it's not just about the marches, but the marches are important, but you can get involved in other ways. I know not everyone likes crowds, right? Like, not everyone has the ability to leave and go out in public. You know, some people, you know, because of you're immunocompromised or, you know, differently abled, whatever it is, maybe agoraphobia. Like, I know actual agoraphobes who were like, I want to be out there, but I cannot. And that's fine. You can also support the movement, the broader movement. You can make calls, you can write letters, you can, you know, write things. You can elevate and help to spread the word online, right? You can be going out and finding the information about happenings and helping to promote that on your pages, or making sure that other people are receiving and seeing that information. But even beyond that, there is nonviolent direct action. You can get involved in more direct forms of protest that is all safe. You know, this is all nonviolent. Also, by the way, nonviolent revolutions are far more likely to succeed than violent ones. So, just saying. You can also like develop some strategies and be like calling out MAGA online. If you're a fucking shit poster, go shit post like against MAGA in comment sections. It's so fun. Yeah. It is so fun.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And if you're good at it and you can shame them and make them feel bad, that's doing the real work right there. The fact that we have not shamed these people enough for their shitty ideologies is why they've gotten so goddamn confident to do it publicly.
Exactly. And the trick is try not to let them rage bait you while you rage bait. And I know it's hard, but just if you're finding yourself being rage baited, just put yourself into, as much as you can, a laughing mentality, right? Even if you're pissed, see if you can put on this like ha ha like mentality to react and whatnot. Rage bait them right back. They want you rage baited. That's going to be a win for them. But like, just taunt them, make fun of them.
I mean, if you're really susceptible to rage bait, if MAGA commenters make you inherently angry, rage baiting is probably not the thing for you, because that's really what they're good at. It's going to be a lot of personal attacks. It's going to be a lot of really stupid shit that's going to be like, how can you possibly be this dumb? And it gets you really, really angry, and then you're going to type away emotionally, and then they've won. And it's
but
really
I think there is a way. I think that there's a way of getting better at it, because I get rage baited for sure. I strong sense of justice, but I have learned, just like, and that's why I'm saying, like, I have to remind myself, like, ha ha, like, remember, ha ha. And then, so when I'm like commenting angrily, I just like, I put on my taunt. It like turns it into a mean, angry taunt, but also, there are rapid response groups. If you want to get more directly involved, you can look up nonviolent direct action in your city. Obviously, look up organizations that are involved in stuff. One really great way of doing stuff, if you're seeing videos on your feed of activists doing things like blocking in ICE vehicles, and you're like, I want to get involved with that, look up those people, look up the organizations that are like posting this in the first place, that are like initially, magnifying it,
promoting it,
and reach out to them and see if you can get involved with them. If you're like, you know what, I could sit in front of an ICE vehicle and like, I can risk arrest. Risking arrest is often not that scary. And same with rapid response teams, right? You can go to a training, look up rapid response training in your area, attend the training classes and whatnot, and start getting plugged in with people if marches are not your thing. Just get involved.
You can also help organize and amplify boycotts and economic pressure that way. It's always huge, and I know right now that's one we can promote. I know the next big thing that they're pushing right now is this Black Friday blackout, where they don't want people spending Black Friday money just from today on, when you're hearing this, through the end of the year. I forget what the dates are off the top of my head, but basically a week of spending as little money as possible and trying to buy as locally as possible. And remember that boycotting doesn't need to be overwhelming. Like, you can pick one thing that's easy for you to give up in your life, that's like really doable for you to give up in your life, or alternate with some other product or company that's less problematic, And just that one little change, especially if you can promote that to a bunch of other people in your community, that one little change can be hugely effective, and you're not being a bad person or a bad activist because you still have to shop at Walmart or whatever is accessible to you, or use Amazon. Like, you can still use those things, because I think we get so caught up on getting rid of, you can no longer spend money at these things that in a lot of places, like where I live, those are your only options.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no such thing as a perfect activist. And even just cutting back on something can absolutely make a difference. Yeah. Good point.
That's huge. So do all those things. Follow Brenna. She is incredible. One of the people who is even more amazing in person than online. And I was privileged enough to have the opportunity to hang out with you this weekend, and I very much enjoyed that.
These guys are way more fun in person. Sorry, you're missing out. But you know what? If you start showing up to like protests in person, you might actually get to see it firsthand. Yeah. Just saying. Just saying.
So, I have a feeling we'll be doing many things together in the future here. I hope to be planning on stuff. Putting her on the spot. We haven't talked about this yet, but...
Oh, you actually have stuff in mind. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Great.
Like, no, not like specific. Well, actually, yeah, I do have some stuff in mind as things kind of plan out here. I'm getting dragged into all kinds of things here as the time goes on, and I think that I will definitely be poking you for input and participation and things in the future.
Absolutely.
I very much enjoyed hanging out with you this weekend, and I think you do really great work. I think that everybody should go follow Brenna and check her stuff out, because it's really, really quality. And if you like my stuff, you're going to love her stuff, because she does the sarcasm really well, in many ways much better than I do, and with some slightly different tact. So
thank you.
Do that. As always, if you guys want to support the podcast and, make us unethically get paid for this stuff, you can do that, just by watching and sharing, but also by sending us money directly via memberships on YouTube, or the links in the bio, or Patreon, or however you do that. You can also buy merch at offthewagon.com, local, or my personal merch, and the podcast is on there. And otherwise, we just love you for giving us this platform and these opportunities. And go out there and get involved. And we will see you guys next week. Thank you so much for being here, bro.
Thank you guys for having me.
But one last thing. I believe that Brenna might have just said that our podcast was way boring compared to seeing us in person.
Oh, is that what I said? No. You guys are just very fun in person. Are you kidding me? No, this was great. You know what I appreciate about this? This was, because I love a deep dive. This is far better than us just, bar hopping and having 15 half conversations all night. And I do like the distance where you guys cannot be like pushing me to stay up and stay out late.
Just to stay on our podcast for longer.
Never do that.
No.
This is way better than the
zero peer pressure involved in our social interactions. I have no idea what you're talking about.
At 1 a.m. Where are you?
We would never do something like that. Well, we just saw that you were
don't Irish
missing.
Goodbye us next time.
I didn't. Oh, I do, but I'm sad I missed out. I'm like, no, I'm getting FOMO, but I try really hard not to get FOMO. I needed sleep, man. I needed sleep. But...
Oh no, I did too. For like a whole week and a half that I was there, and I was just. Oh man, it was definitely I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was. A couple weeks about staying up and partying too much and getting up too early and living very unhealthily, but totally worth it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
All right. Well, we love the shit out of you. Thank you so much for being here. And we will see everybody else next week. Go follow Brenna.
Thanks for having me.
That's right. Thanks, Brenna. Thanks for joining us.